right, good afternoon. Exactly 33 minutes gone past 12. Welcome back. Still your favorite show here, the Midday Show on Lagos Talks 91.3. My name is Paula Chine, and it is time for an amazing show, one that I always, just the same with all other shows, but I look forward to this one because for me, it is everything to love. I'm talking about parenting today. We know that parenting in itself is a never-ending job, and it requires as much knowledge, wisdom, efforts. However, no one is perfect, but we're all open to learning. It is a never-ending job, and there's always room for improvement. Thankfully, even if we're not perfect, and no one might be a perfect parent, I happen to know someone who's the closest person to being the perfect parent, someone who's formidable. She's worked with children. She's used her amazing platform to enrich us with the knowledge as regards being better parents and raising not just children, but great individuals who would go on to make society a better place. I'm here. Someone who's going to be joining me right here on the show is Miss Yetty Williams. Yetty Williams is the CEO of Lagos Moms, although we're still debating about taking it global because I believe she's global right now. If you were to check out the page, you will see what I mean. But in the meantime, my name is Paula Chine. Welcome. Hi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Paula. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Okay. Happy New Month. Oh, we haven't spoken this September.
No, we haven't.
Oh, hugs. How are you? How are you enjoying it? How's the weather?
It's hot. Unusually hot spell right now. So
okay.
I'm not complaining too much.
Oh, nice. All right. Now, speaking about not complaining, I want us to dive right into today's topic. When I saw it, it melted my heart because, one thing is if I will commend you on the fact that you have something for everyone. It's easy as parents to forget that grandparents also play a role. So today's topic is grandparents and how they influence their grandchildren. I like the fact that you make something for everyone. Even if they've been a parent before or they're hoping to be, there's always something for them right here on Parenting Today. If you do not mind, can you kindly take us through this?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes, grandparents. I was telling my daughter the other day that grandparents have the opportunity to spoil their grandchildren if they've done the job to raise their own children right.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do that, what that means is basically if you've raised your own children right and they are responsible, they've gotten older, they're taking care of themselves, they're married, they have children. Grandparents then have the opportunity to then pour all this love on those grandchildren because they don't have to do the hard work of the in-between. And she laughed about that, but I said it's true. But on the flip side, you have some grandparents, unfortunately, who sometimes are having to raise grandchildren because for whatever reason, the parents are not responsible enough, are not there, cannot take care of their own children. We're not talking about, any kind of tragic situations where unfortunately the child's parents are not around, but just in terms of those two hats. So, grandparents have a huge influence on their grandchildren. And for most of them, all they see are these really cute, young people that their children birth, and their role is to just love on them, dote them, and all of that. And, especially in the world that we live in today, talking about raising children in a very dynamic, changing, sometimes scary world, you wonder the role grandparents play in their lives and how equipped, right, grandparents actually are to ensure that their grandchildren today are not just quote and unquote spoiled, but that they are playing a critical part in helping to shape them. Yeah. And so I just thought it would be great to talk about some of that today.
I love that. Sorry. So apologies for interjecting. I love that you mentioned it. Now, there is a popular belief, if you do not mind me asking, that grandparents train their own kids and then spoil their grandkids. So sometimes I want to ask, a lot of parents, when parents see how grandparents are treating their grandkids, they're like, oh, you were never the same. Perhaps you're even spoiling them. You know, when you want to perhaps correct a child and the grandparent stands in front and is like, leave them alone. Don't do that. Don't threaten them. Do you think that is a case of, spoiling the child? Or would you just say it's just, the grandparent being overly affectionate and protective and just wanting to perhaps make things right? Things they couldn't do with their own kids, they want to do with their grandkids.
So it's a mix of things, right? As we were saying earlier, for grandparents, when you are raising your own children, all you're thinking about most times is, how am I going to raise this child to be responsible, stand on their own 2 feet, have their own families, be able to earn to take care of themselves, be God-fearing, whatever is on your list of raising your own children successfully. When those children then get married and have their own children, as a grandparent, that's not your goal. Your goal is not to raise, any children. Your goal is to just absolutely love and what we call spoil. But the role of a grandparent many times is to just, love their grandchildren as much as possible when they do see them, because they're not living, for most of us, they're not living with their grandparents, right? They are visiting.
Okay.
They visit for maybe a couple of hours and they come home. That's it. So for most grandparents, they're not thinking long term, like, oh, am I actually helping to raise this child in such a way that he or she is going to be a responsible adult? Most grandparents are not thinking about that. They figure, that's why I've raised you now, my son and my daughter. That's your job, to raise your own children. Okay. My role here is to just love them, spoil them, play with them, and be that cool grandma or grandpa, right? That the grandchildren want to spend time with. I feel it's natural. It's natural. It's really natural. I've hardly found any grandparent whose job is ever, I'm going to discipline this grandchild.
Okay. Oh, wow. You think so? So I want to ask, have you seen fewer cases of grandparents who are ready to be stern with their grandkids, or do we have many of such cases?
No, of course, everything is not black or white. So I'm not saying that if you see a grandchild doing something obviously wrong, a grandparent is going to say, just because my role is to love my grandchild, even if I see them doing something wrong, I'm not going to do anything. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that overall, the first instinct of a grandparent is not about discipline and, quote unquote, telling the child off, and positive discipline. And some of the things we talk about on this show about a parent directly to a child, or, providing for that child, or am I making enough money to send them to school for 20-something years? That's not a grandparent's, perspective. Okay. A grandparent is really more about the love, the nurture, and which is why we want to talk about some of the influence that they actually have the opportunity to impart on their grandchildren in a world where parents are very busy. There's a lot of influence from, social media and the digital world. So I want to talk about the role grandparents actually can play, because they have that connection with their grandchildren from a place of love and nurture and just caring for you. They have a unique position they can play to help reinforce some of the things that they know that these children or these grandchildren need to learn.
Oh, wow. All right. Please kindly let me in on it. I should probably be I should start planning how to be a grandma from now. It's never too early, is it?
Yes. For us to enjoy grandma days, we have to do the work with our own children now so that we can enjoy.
I tell you, we have to. All right. Please, Miss Yetty. And before we go on, I want to open up the phone lines, because I know a lot of our listeners have questions, right? So I already have a message, which I'll take when you're, done taking us through. But if you want to join the conversation, first off, you can join us via X. Our handle on X, formerly known as Twitter, is at Lagos Talks 913. Kindly use the hashtag parenting today, so we know that Twitter is meant for us. If you want to join via WhatsApp, where you can text, call, or send a voice note, the number for WhatsApp 0809 234 5913. And if you want to call on any of these numbers, if you want to have a chat with Yetty and I, 0809 222 0913, 0809 234 5913. The women only line, 0809 191 3913. All right, Miss Yetty, kindly go on. I'm all ears. All right.
All right. So we're going to break it into 3 rough parts, and then we can take Q&A.
Okay,
and
sure.
It's going to be under what I call the 3 E's, which is a framework I use a lot with my clients, and when we're kind of walking through where are we, what are we trying to achieve, and how do we get there. So the first E is for just education and understanding what exists, what is the reality today, what is happening. So it's great for grandparents to actually just spend time understanding some of the things happening in the world today as it relates to Gen Z and younger.
Okay.
Right? So their children, usually a grandparent today, their child is not Gen Z, usually, right? Their child is what's the generation before Gen Z?
Is it millennials? Yeah, millennials.
For most people, for most grandparents, their grandchildren are Gen Z all the way to the Alpha generation. And Alpha generation are children currently who are about 7 or 8 years old or younger.
Okay.
So when you understand the world from their perspective, which means they are raising grandchildren who don't know a pre-digital world.
Okay.
They are raising grandchildren who are living in a world where mental health challenges are much more, of a reality than ever before. For a lot of grandparents, mental health, it's a new term even for us in our 40s, talk less of for grandparents.
True.
So they need to understand what it means. They need to also understand something around in psychology and a lot of things going on in family research and all of that. We're seeing that loneliness is also on the increase, right? It means that a lot of people can say they have 1,000 followers on social media. But when you look at it, right, if you ask them, do you have 1 or 2 people you can trust that if you call them today, they will drop everything to come and support you?
Oh, wow.
They're finding that for teenagers and younger, not a lot of them have that. They have a lot of friends and seem to be very quote unquote popular, right? Posting, TikToking and all. But in terms of quality people they can call if they need something, not all of them have that either as friends or family members. So I'm just dropping some things that are coming up in research because that way when a grandparent understands that their role is to be that connector between a parent raising the child in this, what seems to be a crazy world, and their role as pure love.com, right? The average grandparent, their role is just love.com. How do I love my grandchild when they come around? So when you understand some of those things, those grandparents can be a great resource to pay attention to when things might not be going the way that is ideal for the child. So one practical example is when a grandchild goes to their grandparents' house, if a grandparent is not aware about some of the downsides, for example, of online, access.
Okay.
Right? Maybe the grandparent has no controls on their phone. They don't have any safe search, for example, on their Google. A parent might have done all of that in their house, right? Where if your child goes online in the house, you've put in structures in place such that they can't come across inappropriate content online, right? Are we still together?
Yeah, wait, I'm here.
But with a grandparent, they haven't gone to think, I want to protect my 10-year-old grandchild from seeing some of this content online. So child comes to grandmom's home, probably grabs grandparent's phone to do things. And because that grandparent's phone doesn't have any controls in place, for example, sometimes those children, they get access to all kinds of content that their father and mother might not even be aware of. And for some children, after school every day, where do they go and spend time? Grandparents home. Exactly. So that's just one example of how, imagine if grandparents and parents are on the same page with this thing called digital world and are speaking about how they want to protect their children and grandchildren. They can be in sync.
Wow, that's good. I never thought of that, I never really thought about it, but thank you. Wow, okay.
So that's just one example. And especially in that situation where usually a grandparent is not working, right? Maybe they've retired or they might have their own business. So when their grandchildren come to their house, I think it's a great opportunity for those grandparents to really connect to the children without screens.
Oh, wow. Okay. I like that. The old-fashioned way.
So sit with the children, talk, share stories from your days. All those tales by moonlight, all those things we grew up watching. A lot of children today don't have stories of how things were before. but not said in a way of, my days were better. You people nowadays, no. But from a perspective of, let's share stories. What happened to you today? Let me compare it to when I was in primary school. I know right now you guys have whiteboards or whatever.
Yeah.
But in our time, did you know it was only the library? Did make those stories engaging. So I find that that's one thing grandparents can easily do. Connect with the children, say it's screen free, and really bond with them so that they get a sense and understanding of who they are, where they are from, and their grandparents' story as they were growing up. It makes the children feel so connected to their history.
Oh, wow. Thank you for mentioning that. Very quickly, I want to ask, these days we have parents who are grandparents now, and you mentioned that their bond and the time spent with grandkids is screen-free. What about us that we were able to switch from analog to digital? Do you perhaps think when we're at that stage in our lives, we might not be able to achieve that?
I think it's something, things are evolving, but I do think that with the amount, for example, let me answer that in a different way. Okay. When cigarettes came out, it was cool to smoke.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Until the research came out that showed that actually this smoking and tobacco has a lot of negative effects on people. What does a cigarette pack have now? I mean, I don't smoke, but I know for a fact that cigarette packs now have a disclaimer on there.
Oh, yeah. Saying that, right? You're more prone to cancer if you were to use it.
Exactly. But I know for a fact, for example, when I was younger and smoking back then was quote unquote cool. I remember being the one who, when I learned in school about how dangerous smoking was, I became a pain until my father gave it up. So, to answer your question, I believe that in the future, some of the things that are just starting to come up now, by then, the research would have been really, what's the word I'm looking for? It will be far-reaching, for example. Wow.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be a struggle of, can I even achieve screen-free time when all I know myself as an adult has always been using screens? We know that there's a downside to screens. We all know that. There's no doubt about that. Okay. The question is, how much of a downside is it? What are the rules around what is the appropriate age? Those are the things that are still very fluid. But I'm pretty confident that very soon there'll be some hard rules that will come out that will really help guide people in terms of what's appropriate in terms of this screen time or not. So when we, like you're saying, when you become a grandmom, for example, some of the conversations might be, can you imagine in our times, people were just allowed to get social media at any age. So we don't know where it will go. I just think we all have to be flexible. We have to keep on top of research. Nowadays, lack of knowledge now. There's no excuse because everything is out there.
All right. Thank you so much, Yetty. It is amazing. I see that we've been having calls. I do apologize. If you want to call back, 0809 234 5913. 0809 222 0913. We have the women only line 0809 191 3913. Lagos Talks, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Gigi.
Hi, good afternoon. Is this Mr. Ben?
Ben from Eva, yes.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Ben. I'm here with Yetty, the CEO of Lagos Moms.
All right, good afternoon to her.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Like you see, to send children to their grandparents in the village is very dangerous.
Oh, okay. Why do you say so? Why do you say so?
It's life in the village. It's easier for children to spoil in the village than in the town. And these grandparents, they trust their relations. They trust people that are related to them. They don't believe they do bad things. Can send their child now. Maybe somebody from that woman's side where she came from. Maybe her niece or her nephew. She will say, please, it's your brother, it's your sister. They will spoil your children. You will not know what is going on here. Like this, my friend that sent his children to her parents in the village. I told them that your children are finished too. I'm telling you the truth. After some years, when the daughter came back, nothing. She was just like a prostitute. The way she dressed, the way she do. And when my wife's mother asked for my children to drop to the village and stay with her, I said no, I rejected it.
Oh, wow, really?
I'm telling you the truth. My wife, she believes what I might say that their children will be finished. All those Okokoro men, all those family men, they will just come. You know how in a village relationship, everybody says brother, everybody says sister, everybody, all of them relate together. They will not know that when she will be sleeping, they will finish these children. At times, you will send a message. All those Okokoro people, maybe on the way self, they will hijack the child, and you will not be there to defend their children. So I don't allow you, even for one day self. Some of us travel. I will never allow you. Never allow you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ben.
Lagos is a very different thing. It can be Oshodi, it can be Sulere, although they go and stay inside compound. One has no problem. There's village life there. It's very easy for children to spoil in this village.
Wow. All right. Thank you for highlighting that. I always thought the reverse was the case, but have a nice day. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ben. Woo. Wow.
Yes, that was a very important point he pointed out, and
True.
Absolutely part of going back to this whole grandparents being a critical influence on children, or their grandchildren. Remember I said at the beginning, they need to almost get educated on what goes on now, right?
True.
So nowadays, for example, we know that most children who are abused, unfortunately, are abused by somebody they know.
Wow.
Somebody that has access to them.
True.
Right? So if a grandparent is still of that mindset that, oh, no, everybody's safe, the world is safe, abuse, they're not here, or God forbid, those kind of things. So before you even send children to a grandparent's house, whether it's in the village or even in the city, the truth is, who else is in that house with the grandparents? Because most grandparents will probably not spend all the time with the grandchildren. So who else is going in and out of that house? It's very, very important.
True.
And like the gentleman said, unfortunately, yes, if all adults are not on the same page, some children can fall into a gap and then be, unfortunately, abused by somebody who has access to them, and because there's nobody really monitoring what's happening. It's that example, though.
I like that you mentioned the fact there's something that I love. I love everything you say, by the way. But you made mention of most abuse cases occurring between the child and a familiar individual. You know, sometimes growing up, a lot of people were raised in a communal way. Like you could be dropped off with someone who the family thought was a good friend or relative. But I like that we've moved away from that now, because a lot of people know that it doesn't matter how closely related or how well you think an individual is, or how well you think you know an individual. They could still be, abusers, and it could still put your child at a risk. Ms. Yetty, I have a couple of messages, and these ones seem to be quite tricky. I don't know. Do you mind if we just take them?
Go ahead. I don't know what they are, so I can't
All right.
say.
Okay.
Let's go for it.
Maybe because I'm not a parenting expert like you are, so I'm just like, okay. All right. Here I have Bumi from Yaba saying, good afternoon to the amazing parenting expert. I'm currently hosting my mother-in-law who came into town from Oshun 2 weeks ago. She feeds my kids amala in the morning, and I hate this. My kids hate it. We're used to cereal or bread in the morning. My husband says I should just manage for the next 1 month when she travels out. But how can I tell her I don't like this without coming off as rude?
Wow. Okay, that's a big one. And I see why you said tricky.
Yeah.
I'm sure grandma is thinking, this is your husband, that's my son that you married.
Maybe he grew up eating
This I was feeding him amala every day. So what are you saying that the children don't like it? So honestly, when it comes to in-law relationship, it's really about communication. And you cannot, and I think that for some men, let me not generalize, they can't imagine getting in between wife and mother. So in his mind, he's just like, it's just 1 month now. It won't kill anybody. Just manage it. However, that is not the best way to support, because if the wife, nobody is harming anybody. However, if the mother feels, she's the mother, and she feels like, this is not what I want to feed my children in.
Wow.
And or my children actually don't like it. How can we all come together to agree that maybe instead of it being every morning, is their dinner or lunch instead? I need to get the husband to support and say, Mama, we know, but you have to be able to communicate. I don't think it's fair for the mother of the children to have to just take it for another month and just stomach it. You will build resentment as well, especially if the children don't like it.
Well, how can you know, especially owing to culture and all, how can you have that conversation with someone who might see this as, oh, now you're telling me what to do in my son's house? You know, there's that little fear of that happening. Do you think her son should be in a better position to, you know, help his mom see light to that?
And that's why I said it's important that they're all able to communicate. I'm not sure that response of just saying, just stomach it for another month is the way to go. Because you don't know where this can lead. It can become when mama wants to come next time, she's against it because she had to suffer for this month. So how do you balance it? You know, there's no easy answer. Yes, our culture is one of just that. That's how we did this. But you can't say anything. However, she has a right to have a preference for how she wants to raise her children. And mother-in-laws need to be able to respect that. That's the truth.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, Miss Yetty.